Hey Shema, here's a video lesson for you. Trying to get across the idea that pretty much all of our images need to be edited. As they come straight out of the camera, they're sort of there, but they're not quite there. They're not artistically, for the most part, there yet. So let me show you a few tricks. I've got Photoshop opened here, and I've taken picture number 8 off of the blog and threw it in Photoshop here. So the question is, and it always is, what's the focal point? And in this case, it's these lovely red blooms on this springtime tree here, and the detail in the sticks, but it's kind of hard to see. And then the second question always is, so then what takes your eye away from that? What weakens it? And you see these light areas around the edge here. You see how this is lighter than this? Your eye goes to these light areas and sort of ignores what's happening in here. One other thing is these sticks coming out of the bank normally would be okay, but they're pretty overexposed, so I'm going to see about editing those out. Normally I don't like to make massive changes like that, but in this case it's kind of warranted. So let's get started. First thing is it's overall too light, so I'm going to darken it by going Image, Adjustment, Brightness Contrast, dial back the brightness until you'll see I'm going to bring back up the contrast. First we're taking it a little darker, and then I'm going to furthermore darken these outside edges. So I'm taking the lasso and I just lassoed around this to select it, and every time you make a selection you have to feather it so that it blends it in. So I'm going to blend that back, and then I'm going to darken it some more. So that's Image, Adjustment, Brightness, Contrast, and dial it darker. Deselect with a Control D. Alright, these little corners here, we'll probably just end up cropping that. So here's the crop tool on the left, fifth one down, just pull that in to get rid of those corners. I could clone them, there are other things I could do, but that was the easiest thing. I'm going to try a little artificial intelligence here and just grab a little bit of this and fill it with something called Content Aware. So that's Edit, Fill. Instead of white, I'm choosing Content Aware. And sometimes it's brilliant, and that worked out pretty well. I'm going to do that in a couple of lifts here. I'm going to take this group and do that again. Edit, Fill, Content Aware. There's also a clone tool, Control Deselect. Look at that. Take this one, Edit, Fill, Content Aware. Magic. And we still have this one, so let's try. I'm not going to get too close to that far rock there, and I'll probably end up cloning that. Edit, Fill, Content Aware, Deselect. At this point I'm going to hit the letter S, which selects the rubber stamp tool, and that's the clone tool. When I hold down the Alt key and click, it samples the pixels right here, and then I can come over here and just paint those pixels in. Pretty cool. Take this bank here and move that over. Take this rock. So I'm doing multiple samples. When it gets a little busy like this, probably the Content Aware is not a good thing to use. Okay, this little spot too. That's a leaf. I'm going to leave that alone. Okay, now I was saying let's bring up some color and contrast in here. So I'm going to take the lasso again and lasso around this tree and feather it. This time the tool is going to be levels. I'm going to hide this, Control H, and then Image Adjustment Levels, or Control L. And I'm going to bring up a little bit of light, bring in a little bit of dark. That raises the contrast. Bring in the mids over to the right, bring in the highlights to the left. And do you see how the light is growing here? Let's pause that, and then I'm going to Image Adjustment Hue Saturation, or Control U. Dial up some saturation to get the red to pop a little bit more. Deselect. You could still darken the outside a little more. I'm going to take this elliptical marquee and click and drag around the center here. Select and mask. Feather it way back, kind of like that. And before I click OK, I'm going to click Invert here, and then OK. And one more time, darken it some more. Image, Adjustment, Brightness, Contrast. There we go. Okay, so it seems like a lot, but it's pretty straightforward. And I want you to see the difference because, again, editing is everything. This is what you saw when you took the picture. The camera has no idea. When the camera took your picture, it looked like that. True enough, you could have realized maybe this would be a problem, but still. So we went from this to, this is history now, that. See the difference? It's huge. So really this is what the class is about. Taking pictures is part of it, but the editing is more important probably. So anyhow, I guess I'll just leave it at that one. See you on the blog.